I think it's right at the top of your website, building a more secure future, or raising a more secure future. Is that what we're doing?
No, no, we certainly are not doing that. Yeah, I mean, I think that the other thing is if you read about boys and masculinity and what fathers do for boys, you would understand too that boys produce a tremendous amount of testosterone when they're little. Between the ages of 3 and 6, they produce a ton of testosterone, almost as much as when they go through adolescence. And so that means that they are impulsive, aggressive, um, in ways that we judge them because we judge them as little girls. The ability to sit quietly in circle time at a younger and younger age is sort of trying to take a square peg and put it into a round hole, and it makes little boys go off the rails when you try to hold little boys' energy too tightly. I mean, little boys need to really explore the world physically before the age of 6. So one thing is that we start preschool too early, and we put children in daycare under the age of 3. All of these things are restricting to children's need to play, particularly little boys, and we judge them and we label them. We put them in boxes as having a problem when they're high energy and aggressive. And um, having said that, it is fathers who regulate or help little boys to learn to regulate their aggression. And if fathers are not around enough, so what's happened too in recent years is that fathers are starting to understand their role as fathers is actually important, that it's important to be around. I mean, funny enough, 75 years ago, fathers were around more. They would be home by 6 o'clock, like Leave It to Beaver, and they would be there, playing baseball in the yard, going to their kids' baseball games or soccer games or football games, and hanging out with their boys in the evenings and shooting hoops in the driveway. Then came this period of work before everything, material achievement and success before everything, where work was put before family. And little boys were the first ones who were abandoned and needed their fathers, and their fathers were not present. Their fathers would work until 7, 8, would travel for work, um, fathers who were poor were working 2 and 3 jobs. There was an increase in divorce and the rise of single parent families, so fathers weren't around. But basically, these little boys didn't have anybody to show them how to regulate angry feelings and aggressive feelings and how to regulate excitement, because little boys also just get really excited, and that's part of emotional regulation. If fathers aren't around enough for little boys, they don't learn how to regulate aggression, and there's a greater chance that they will be labeled.
So when they should be uh, roughhousing and playing around, or yeah, doing these natural human interactions with other adults, with other children, well, we're putting them in these boxes, telling them to be quiet and pay attention, or sitting them in front of boxes, and we're giving them an overload of dopamine, as mentioned
We're
before.
stressing them out. Yeah, we're basically putting them into high stress mode. You know, if you, what you're really trying to do to the greater extent is to reduce levels of cortisol in children who are under the age of 6. And if you can keep the cortisol levels relatively low under the age of 6, then they incrementally learn to cope with stress as time goes on. But if you introduce them to too much stress too early, and what we're doing is separating mothers and babies at too early an age, which is causing very young infants to go into a kind of stress mode, high levels of cortisol in their bodies. And then they get to the school years of 3 to 6, preschool years, and we're making them sit quietly, learning letters and numbers and doing left brain kind of cognitive development with them where they're before they're capable, which stresses them out, again raises their cortisol levels. We don't really understand that attachment, security, and play, and your physical and emotional presence, whether you're mother or father, in the first 6 years is the most important thing if you want to give them a good foundation for the future. And I would say for little boys, they are more neurologically sensitive than little girls. There's a lot of research to show that boys are, in the world, more boys are born, but more girls survive. And the reason for that is they are very fragile, both physically and neurologically, little boys. And so when they are either put in daycare, or when they are neglected, benignly neglected by one parent or the other, they they develop these stress reactions. We're seeing them, fight or flight. So we see signs of unregulated aggression, hitting and biting in school, and also the flight mode, which is distractibility. So all these little boys are getting diagnosed with ADHD, and the world is just accepting it. Oh, well, every little boy must have ADHD. I'm like, no, no, no. These are stress reactions that we are ignoring, and not really even questioning what's causing the stress, right? So you have a great opportunity under the age of 6 to give your child a foundation for the future. And I think most parents don't take advantage of those years to give children that foundation.